Welcome, everyone, to the Crystal Starnes Show and Voice for Victims. Today, we have this wonderful lady that's coming on, and she's from Kansas. But first, I want to say thank you to everyone out there that's tuning in and watching my shows. I'm so grateful that you watch my shows. And one thing that you could do to help me is you could go to my YouTube channel, Crystal Starnes TV Show, and hit the subscribe button if you want to continue to see more content. Also, a product that I recommend is Balance 7. And Balance 7 is a nutritional supplement that gets you back to optimal health. And you can find this product at balance7.com. It's balance and then the number 7.com. If you want a discount, you type in Crystal 10 and also let them know that you found out about Balance 7 on the Crystal Starnes Show. With that all being said, I want to welcome Carolyn Davis Rohlin to the show. Hi, Carolyn. How are you?
I'm good, Crystal. How are you?
Good. I'm so happy you're here, and I'm excited to hear about your story. And I think you're going to be an inspiration to many out there. I briefly know a little bit about your story, but I don't know all of it. But I am just really grateful that you came on because it's very hard for people to come on shows and tell their story. But I'm very happy that you did that because I think you're going to help a lot of people out there.
Well, good. I hope so. I uh I don't know. Do you just want me to start talking or do you want to ask me any specific questions?
Well, I guess we could start off with just tell the audience a little bit about who you are and your background, and if you want to go into your story, you can do it. The floor is yours.
Okay, I'll take the floor. This is my first ever official podcast I've ever been on or a show that I've been on. I've been a speaker at a number of Christian women's events. Let's see. About myself, I am married. I have two boys. They are now, oh my goodness, almost 19 and almost 22, which blows my mind because you blink and it just flies by, as all you parents watching know. I'm a sales vice president with Park Lane Jewelry. So I train a lot of people in the field. I have a team that I work with all across the country. I absolutely love that. Uh, Mostly because of I don't know. I just think it's amazing what you get out of life when you really just take time to look back and take stock on it. And I feel so blessed and grateful to be where I am because if you were to rewind and look at my life, 25, 30 years ago, it was very, very different. So I grew up in a Christian home and my parents took us to church every Sunday. I went to Christian schools. I hear my son coming up the stairs. So I bet you pretty soon we're going to hear dogs barking. Nope. Or he's going to pop his head in here and realize I'm doing something important and pop his head back out. So if you see him, his name's Trendon. But I grew up in a Christian home and then I went off to high school, got into a lot of trouble, started using drugs, and started with pot when I was 15, started skipping school, dropped out my sophomore year. My poor parents. I always share this in my story. My poor parents. I mean, can you imagine? And whenever somebody would tell me that I was going to get paid back for what I put my parents through, I was like, I rebuke that in the name of Jesus because there's no way it could be that bad. But I did. I dropped out my sophomore year and then I got into really hard drugs and I was selling them and joined a magazine crew to get out of town so that I could get away from the drug scene here because it's hard. I mean, once you start using cocaine and crystal meth, it's hard. And I traveled the country for a couple years selling magazine subscriptions door to door. Crystal, did you ever have to do door to door sales?
Oh,
Girl
wow.
Scout cookies, anything?
Girl
Did you ever
Scout
do?
cookies. Yes, I
Oh
did
yeah.
that. That's
Well,
hard work.
it is hard work, but
Yeah.
boy, did I learn some good people skills during that time. And so for a year and a half, actually, I traveled the country selling magazine subscriptions. And during that time, oh gosh, and I almost hesitate to share this publicly because of everyone that's out there, but I am. I'm an open book. So our team went out on territory one day and one vehicle went out with like 15 of my friends in it. It was a 15 passenger van. And normally I would have been in that van. But that day, my boss was like, Hey, Carolyn, why don't you try being a car handler, which is like the manager of the team for the day? So me and four or five of us went out in this little bitty Ford Aspire, and we were in Wisconsin. And then we got home back to the hotel that night, and the other vehicle didn't come back. It had gotten into a rollover accident, and seven of our friends died, and five of them were in the hospital and maimed, and the driver went to jail because he was driving on a suspended license. But that was like a really major trauma like in my life, because there was an ex-boyfriend on there. There was one of my friends from back home that I had hired that both passed away. And there was all this stuff on 2020 about it, but we never got to have any closure with those people. Our boss like picked us up and moved us to Florida. We went from Wisconsin to Florida, and we left because it was just such a hot thing in the news. So that was really a difficult time for me. It definitely took the joy out of sales. And so I didn't stay there much longer. I quit and I came back home, and I got, guess what, back into the drug scene because it's what I knew. I knew how to make money. I knew how to do it easily. And but then I met my first husband, my late husband. I met him, and he was very anti-drugs. He had been raised with a drug addict mother. And so he helped me stop using. We would fight over it, but we finally got plugged in to church. So even though I grew up in this Christian home, you'd be like, Carolyn, what are you doing? I just thought, I love Jesus and he would understand and forgive me for everything, which he does. Grace covers everything, but we're supposed to repent and try to do better. And I was not at that time. But I remember a very distinct day where I was driving down the highway, and I had this like feeling. And I know we have a vast variety of listeners on there, but for me, I believe it was the Holy Spirit. And I had this feeling of, what if I were to die right now? What if I were to crash and die right now? And was not secure in what would happen to me because I was living such a horrible lifestyle. And so I got home and I told Mike, we were dating and living together at the time, and he was still allowing me to sell drugs as long as I wasn't using them. Ask me how much sense that makes. But I told him, I was like, we're done. I have to be done. I introduced all my clients to the people I purchased from, which is probably not the best way to do it, but I had to do something to like force myself out of that lifestyle so that I couldn't get back into it. We started going to church every time the doors were open. And then about a month later, I'm sure y'all know this, but you don't just like go to church, find Jesus, and then boom, you're perfect. I'm 22 years sober now, and I'm still not perfect. I love the Lord. I still screw up every day. But a month later, we had some friends over and we did some ecstasy. And no, it was mushrooms. We did some mushrooms, and a friend came over with some crystal meth, and I did some. I stayed up all night, and the next day I had this feeling. I thought, what if I was pregnant? I don't think I'd ever taken a pregnancy test before in my life, but I had that feeling, and I went and I got one, and I was. And oh my goodness, I burst in tears, first of all, freaked out. Woke Mike up, told him, he was like, it'll be fine. He went back to sleep. Like, thanks a lot. But we met with my parents. I came clean to everyone. I came clean to my pastor, my parents, my doctor. We had this really sweet doctor. He was from the Philippines, and with his accent, I told him everything. I was like, I've probably used at least twice some sort of substance, maybe 3 times since I got pregnant. Is the baby going to be okay? And he was like, oh, if it's not, it comes out. The baby's okay, it stays in. Like, okay. But we had that 9 months while I was pregnant with Dylan. I prayed a lot. We went to church a lot, and he came out okay. My Dylan is now the one that's almost 22, and he's so sick of hearing this story. But he'll make a joke to his friends every once in a while. He's like, "That's because I'm a crack baby." I was not doing crack. Not that what I was doing was any better, but he likes to make that joke. But God's just been so good to me. And then about 10 months later, so I had a baby. I stayed home. I nursed him almost the whole first year. So every time I was like tempted to go back to my previous lifestyle, oh, and Mike and I got married. So I couldn't because I was nursing my child. And then right before the time I was going to wean him, I found direct sales. So it was another company. I used to be with Premier Designs, and it was another jewelry company. And my sister started out with it. I told her she was crazy. I told her it was a scam. I told her I don't wear jewelry. I don't go to parties. I don't know anybody. And a year later, she was still selling jewelry. So this was about the time my son was 10 months old. I was like, okay, I'll give this a try. And I truly believe that God has made my business successful and kept me so super busy with this because he's like, you cannot have idle hands. You need something to do. And now it's just been amazing. He's protected me. He protected me from all of that stuff from my past. We had another child, and my business thrived for a really long time. But then during COVID, let's see, 2020, that company closed and I was crushed because, that's where I won my trips and it was my wonderful social life. But then I found Park Lane, which is they're based out of Chicago. And that went so well. I was able to quit the full-time job I had started 3 years before. And now I get to work with women all over the country and help them get out of debt, help them build their confidence and find their identity. And it's just so rewarding. So that's kind of a fast forward version of my story. Um, is there anything like specifically that you want to focus on, Crystal? Or like my true passion is helping people get out of debt. So I mentioned a minute ago that Mike, my late husband, in 2010, I was 30, and he was the husband that didn't want me to do drugs and helped me get sober. Well, he experienced a back injury. He was a drywaller. Um, and I don't know if you've ever been married or related to someone who works manually with their body, but it like breaks down their body. And he had had this back injury, and he started seeing a doctor that's local here in Kansas, who actually I think is in prison now. But that doctor prescribed him. He went from Loratabs to Percocets to Oxycontins for just back pain. And now I've seen, oh my gosh, have you seen that Netflix show, Crystal? The
No.
one about OxyContin. It was like watching my life with my late husband. Anyways, I can't even remember what it's called, but that's beside the point. He struggled with addiction for a couple years with that, and then went through a methadone clinic and got a new doctor that helped him manage his pain naturally. So it looked like things were going better, but he would still every once in a while get some from a friend of his. And so this one day in July of 2010, it was a very normal day. We went out to lunch together. The kids were with him. He went to work on one of my friend's house. He was really helpful. He was doing drywall on her house. And I went to get my hair done. And I was sitting there in the chair, foils in my hair. And Mike calls me and he said, "Hey, Carolyn, I need you to come help me. I think I took too much." And I knew he had gotten some from a friend that morning because he said his back was hurting. But this was not a red flag. I mean, we're talking 2 years of me watching him, need pain medication for stuff. Said, "I think I took too much and I'm having trouble focusing. Can you come help me finish this?" And I said, "Oh, I can't believe you're doing this to me right now." Because it was at my friend's house, it was embarrassing. And I said, "Give me an hour. I have all this stuff in my hair. I'll be there as soon as I can." And he said, "Okay." I recommended that he, try to lay down and just rest and sleep it off till I got there. Well, when I got there, I found him in his work van, unresponsive, and I banged on my friend's door, and I did CPR on him till the paramedics got there, and it was, I mean, surreal for sure. But I prayed over him. I just, even though it was so like horrific on one hand, I had peace that I cannot explain. It is true. It was truly the peace that passes all understanding. But they worked on him for a while, and then they came and talked to me and said that there was really nothing else they could do. So he passed away that day in my friend's driveway. Well, my kids were in her basement playing. They were 5 and 8 at the time. And that is the hardest to this day. That's the hardest conversation I've ever had in my life, was going in to tell my boys that their daddy had gone to heaven. But through all of that, I mean, God was so good and took care of us. Like, we shouldn't have even had life insurance at the time. His business was struggling. We hadn't paid our life insurance bill for 3 or 4 months, but we had one of those policies that has a cash value. And when you default, the cash value covered the premium. So we had a small policy. It was like $100,000, and he had over $60,000 to $70,000 in debt just from his drywall company. So I didn't get rich, but I also didn't have to declare bankruptcy. So that was a big pivotal moment for me and my family, my boys. But just seeing how God showed up and took care of us, and the fact that here I was, a stay-at-home mom with a little jewelry side hustle, and I was able to still just do that. I was able to be home with my kids, still do all the field trips, and just do a couple jewelry shows a week and take care of my family. So that was amazing. And now I'm remarried. My high school sweetheart from back when I was like 17. He had never married, never had kids. We reconnected on Facebook. And next month we'll celebrate 12 years together. So
Oh, congratulations.
thank you. So yeah, I think that's why I'm so passionate about helping others do something like this. I mean, I'm sure not everybody wants to sell jewelry, but there are so many options out there in the direct selling world, or just not limiting yourself. Because here I was, a high school dropout, and I helped my husband do drywall. I helped run his drywall business. But then I found something for myself that I excelled at. And the great thing about sales is your education level does not matter. I actually did get a GED. I don't know if I mentioned that. And I flying colors on my score on my GED, because I went from Christian school to public high school, and it was just so boring. And the first quarter of my sophomore year, I dropped out, got my GED, and they totally aced it. But I didn't go on and do anything good with it. But it was just so nice to find something that I could do, that I could be good at, that gave me something to feel proud of, that I could also support my family with. I learned how to use Word. And then along the way, I had a friend whose electrical company, they needed someone just to answer phones for like 6 weeks. And this would have probably been back in like 2016. And I offered to help them with that. They showed me some accounting stuff. They really liked me. And then they offered to keep me on with free healthcare and all sorts of benefits. I could work my jewelry business from work. And so I did that for 3 years. And that also helped me a ton, because now I can do Excel. There's so much stuff that I've learned to do on the computer. I have a YouTube channel now. There's just so many things that if you're willing to be open to learning new things, the sky isn't even the limit. There is no limit. And I just think that that's incredible.
I think you've been through a lot, and you've done so well. Like, I mean, your whole life. I mean, you even had your husband pass away. I mean, that would have been traumatic, and you're still going. You're still striving, being the best that you can be. I mean, you are an inspiration to a lot of people out there. Anyone out there that is watching, you can keep going. She's living proof. Carolyn is living proof. She's,
What?
wow. I
Oh,
had no
thanks.
idea. I had no idea.
Well,
And
I think you're an inspiration. Because I'd met you with Gail, and then you started your own show, multiple shows and podcasts, and I'm like, how'd she do that? She just up and decides to do something like that. That's so cool.
yeah, it was also like a passion inside, just because of what I went through. I wanted to help people and try to, and I just kept like thinking of different ideas on how to make different shows and just kept going and pushing and, kind of like you to a point, I had a passion for it.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's great. I think it's wonderful that you help people, and that's what I want to do. When I share at events, sometimes I'll get through my story. It's never quite told exactly like I just did it, but I share different things, and there's even more stuff from my childhood, and I'll get to the point and I'll be like, you guys are probably wondering, why did this girl just stand up there and air all her dirty laundry? But I truly believe that when you use whatever your struggles are, whatever you've been through, anything that maybe you feel ashamed of, if you will be upfront and open about that stuff, it takes the shame away. It makes it to where you're using it to help others. And I never want like the sad or the hard things in my life to hold me down. I feel like we learn from everything. Is it a cliche? Is that what they call a statement that everybody always says? But what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, 100%. And I also believe even in that moment when I found Mike and I said I had that amazing peace, I feel like I had been prepared for that. Like I know I had been prepared for that moment. Um, I can remember years before watching some other people close to us lose some people and grieve. And I don't want anyone to hear this badly. I know everybody grieves differently, but I saw a few people very close to us grieve and very angry at God, angry at their family, always trying to blame somebody else for what happened, even though there was no one to blame. But anger was really, and I definitely had anger. Trust me, I had my share of anger, but it was all directed at Mike, and he wasn't here, so I couldn't yell at him. But I remember watching them, and I was thinking, if I ever lose my spouse, I that's not how I want to be. And I feel like part of that was preparing me for what I was going to go through. And yeah, I truly believe God does equip you for what you're gonna have to go through. It's not fun. It's definitely not fun, but you can get through it, and then you can take it and use it to help others and to also just be a better person yourself. I know I'm a better mom because of that. When I think about the time that I spend with my kids, or this old fishing boat. So we have a 1992 Ranger fishing boat. Never had a boat before. Jamie, my husband now, didn't want a boat. Uh, and about 3, 4 years ago, it was right before the pandemic. Um, my parents told me that somebody was selling this old boat, and I had always wanted a boat. And my youngest son, Trendon, he lives to fish. Like I'm pretty sure he's going to be a hunting and a fishing guide one day, probably be YouTube famous, whatever. But I had always wanted a boat. So I bought this boat, and I have spent hours, days, weeks, like in the last few years, like a lifetime of boating memories with my son on that boat, catching fish, even when it's freezing cold. I don't like the cold, but there have been times when he would want to go fishing, and I bought the gear, I geared up, and I went out. And I think all the time, I'm like, these are like priceless memories that if I die tomorrow, he will always have. And it really makes you look at everything so differently once your children have lost one parent. And I'm always thinking about what can I do to, prepare them for when I'm gone, or enjoy the moment with them, and not just my kids, with my current husband. Some days I want to strangle him, but I can remember what it's like when you lose them, and so I don't strangle him.
Well, thank you so much. Your story is amazing, and I commend you for coming on today and telling the whole world about your situation that you went through. You've been through a lot of trauma, but you have, I'm sure you're not fully overcome it, but you can live today. You can keep going, and you're doing very well, and you've been very successful with Park Lane. And that being said, do you want to talk a little bit about Park Lane?
Oh, yeah, sure. Well, if you're watching and you're unfamiliar with Parkland, they actually have franchises in multiple countries, but the one that I can recruit in or sell in is the United States, obviously, since I'm Kansas girl. I love, I was not a jewelry person to start with, but I love that I can put on, like, I'm just wearing a little tank top. I can throw on a tank top and a jacket and some jewelry, and it makes me feel good. And when I partnered with Park Lane as a brand, coming from another jewelry company, I didn't think there was a jewelry company out there that was reputable, had a good enough product, a good enough hostess program, because the company I was with previously, I loved so, so much. So I kind of had like my blinders on. But then what I found, um, Park Lane recognizes and respects leadership experience. So if you've ever been a leader in another direct selling space or currently are, they will bring you over at a comparable leadership level. So that for me was huge because I'd been 18 years working and building a team in my other company, and I didn't have to start over at the bottom. Park Lane brought me in already as a senior division leader, already earning a higher commission level, and I didn't have to like prove anything. I didn't have to prove that I would bring over a team. I actually came over as a team of one, and then people ended up joining my team. The jewelry is amazing. It's all lead free, nickel free, cadmium free, hypoallergenic. So everybody loves the product. I think the thing that most of my fan base, customers, friends love the most is how good they are at their designer inspirations. I'm not sure if I'm wearing it, and I probably shouldn't even like shout out other designer names, but we have a ton of stuff. I'll have people come in and say, "Oh, is that Von Cleef? Is that Cartier?" You know, they'll ask me, or they'll ask my friends, and I'm like, "No, it's Park Lane, but doesn't it look nice?" And they always have a buy two get four at half price sale, which appeals to my heart because I am a bargain hunter. So you have to remember back 20 years ago, before I was successful and my husband was a drywaller and I was a stay-at-home mom, my budget every week was like $20 to go garage sailing with. I clothed my whole family on $20 because I was buying clothes for 50 cents and I didn't wear jewelry. But so I've always had this desire to be frugal and help people get a good deal. And so the fact that I can work that buy two, get four at half price sale for everyone, and the pieces you pay full price for are the least expensive. Plus, then I can usually get them a $200 item for 30. And I see this cart that I make them with this beautiful look that they're going to feel fabulous in. And it only cost them like $120. And it shows that I saved them like $250. It makes my bargain hunting heart so, so happy. And, and then to help other people be able to earn income doing what I do. During the pandemic, I did all of my shows from right here in my office or in the corner in my dining room before I cleaned out a space to have an office. And we paid off so much debt with this. After my first husband passed away, I went through the Dave Ramsey program, which if you guys have never done that, he's awesome, but it's financial peace. And I paid off all our credit cards. And then I worked on paying off my vehicle. And then I worked on paying off my house. And then when I remarried, he had his house on a 30-year loan. I was like, oh, no. I refinanced it to a 15-year. We paid it off in 5. And then we moved to this house and we've been here 5 years and we paid it off last summer. So I love helping people learn how to be smart with their money and get out of like the bondage of financial debt. And Park Lane has been a huge part of that because you can earn as much as you want. You can choose to just sell it. You can choose to build a team. And my average hostess gets somewhere in the realm of $400 to $700 in free jewelry when they just decide to have a fun little virtual shopping event with me. So if you are watching this show and you think, it might be fun to shop online with my girlfriends, you can reach out to me. I'm on Facebook. Bling Carolyn is how you can find me. I think my business page is Bling Carolyn with Park Lane. I also have Bling Carolyn VIP group. I have no idea what my name is on Instagram, but if you type in Carolyn Davis Rohlin or Bling Carolyn, you'll probably find me. And just Carolyn Davis Rohlin on YouTube. So I'm in all of those places, but Facebook is my main playground. But I have learned to share a lot of stuff on YouTube, and I meet a lot of people through YouTube as well. So I'd be happy to help anyone, whether you want a cute pair of earrings, you want to get some free stuff, or you want to make some money. I would be happy to help you in whatever your situation is.
Well, thank you again for coming on, and make sure you check out her YouTube channel and her groups on Facebook. I've gotten this jewelry as well. I'm actually wearing it today. So I would highly recommend looking at her website. What is your website for Park Lane?
Oh, my website. This is easy to remember. It's blingcarolyn.com. And Carol,
Perfect.
it's Bling, BLINGCAROLYN.com. Will take you straight to my website. And anyone is welcome to join my VIP group on Facebook. It is a private group. So the only people I don't let in are other stylists from Park Lane, just because of I need to be able to keep track of who's there. I have a different group to train stylists. But you can type in vip.blingcarolyn.com, and that will take you straight to my Facebook group on Facebook, obviously.
Well, thank you. And is there any message you want to give out to people that may be struggling, like with drug addiction, I guess, to end the show?
Well, I would say if you're struggling with drug addiction, just get help. Find someone you can talk to. A friend is good. A program is better. I know there's Narcotics Anonymous, there's Alcoholics Anonymous. If you're a believer and you want something that is Christian based, a lot of churches have a program called Celebrate Recovery, and it's a 12-step program that is based off of the Bible. And it's not just for people with drug addictions, it's for anyone with hurts, habits, and hangups. And seriously, I still got all of those. And every once in a while, I'll still go, because it's just a really good, safe place where you can be part of a worship service, go through, talk about the 12 steps, and you break up into sharing groups. Guys are together, girls are together. So you don't have to worry about the whole, you know, what is he going to think of me? What is she going to think of me thing? It's anonymous, but it's really good. And I would just encourage you, don't give up. And if you are someone who is married to, or your child, someone you love is in addiction, I also want to encourage you not to give up, but I want to tell you, you can't fix them. I spent years thinking that I was doing something wrong, that I wasn't trying hard enough, but you can't fix them. And Al-Anon is an amazing group. It's for the spouses or the loved ones of addicts. And it's just a great place to go to learn and to just pray that God would put someone else in their path that would reach them, because they will hear things from someone else that they will not hear from you. And yeah, that's my encouragement there.
Thank you so much. And I am very happy you came on today.
Thank you for asking me.
You're welcome. And thank you for sharing. That was really a good story. And I'm sorry that you went through all that, but I'm just happy now it's like you're calling, you're helping others, and that's amazing.
Yeah. Everybody says, Carolyn, you should write a book. I'm like, yeah, I should. I started one once. I think I've saved it somewhere in my Google Drive somewhere, but I'm so busy doing other stuff. But yeah, one day I'll probably write a book.
Yeah, you should write a book. I think it would help people. Well,
All
thank you
right.
again. And anyone out there that wants to come on the show, just reach out to crystalstarnshow.com, and I'd love to hear from you. Till next time, take care, everyone.